We lost 100,000 books in a single night. All of humanity's knowledge disappeared in flames. But that wasn't the real tragedy. The real tragedy was that this knowledge would never return. I, Cleopatra, today I will tell you how the world's greatest treasure was lost. Because what would truly make my name live on wasn't my gold, but the Library of Alexandria. That night, when I saw flames engulf the library, none of us knew we were witnessing one of humanity's darkest days. The Library of Alexandria was founded by Ptolemy, one of Alexander the Great's generals. But I was the one who truly made it great, who brought it to its peak. 700,000 scrolls, each one carrying a different secret of humanity. Have you ever thought about it? What does it mean to gather all the world's knowledge in one place? Every morning, when I entered the library, I felt like the gods, because there stood all the wisdom of the past and all the potential of the future. My library wasn't just a book repository. The world's greatest minds worked there. Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the Earth with only a 2% margin of error. Euclid wrote the laws of geometry there. Archimedes discovered the principle of the lever. But the library's real power lay in its systematic method of knowledge collection. I had books copied from every ship that docked at Alexandria's harbour. This was mandatory law. We kept the originals in the library and gave copies to the sailors. Through this method, everything flowed into my library. From Babylon's astronomical tablets to India's mathematical works, from Celtic priests' knowledge of nature, I was collecting every fragment of knowledge that existed in the world. But there was something I didn't yet know. Possessing this accumulation of knowledge also meant being a great target. When Caesar came to Alexandria in 48 BC, my library was at its peak. But war began. Caesar decided to burn Ptolemy's ships. This was strategically correct, but it had an unforeseen consequence. The wind changed direction. Flames from the burning ships spread to the warehouses at the harbour. These warehouses were connected to the library's book storage areas. The fire spread rapidly. That night, 40,000 scrolls burned. Most of these were works that had copies in the library, but some were unique. Sappho's lost poems, Archimedes' engineering blueprints, Aristophanes' lost plays. All were destroyed in one night. But the real tragedy was this. The fire was just the beginning. The library's true destruction happened slowly, over centuries. After the fire Caesar started, I tried to repair the library. I collected new scrolls, brought back scholars. But it was no longer at its former strength, because it wasn't just books that were lost. The knowledge production system had been damaged too. During the Roman Empire period, the library tried to survive. But Romans didn't value Greek science much. What was useful to them were works on law, engineering, and military strategy. Basic science, mathematics, and philosophy took a back seat. When Emperor Caracalla came to Alexandria in 215 AD, he massacred the city. Most of the scholars in the library were killed. The survivors fled the city. Knowledge production stopped. In the 3rd century, the Roman Empire experienced economic crisis. The budget allocated to the library was cut. Scrolls weren't repaired. New works weren't copied. Humidity, insects, rat infestations. Books slowly began to rot. In the 4th century, Christianity became Rome's official religion. This was a major blow to the library, because most of the works in the library were from the pagan era. Christian rulers began to view these works as heretical. In 391 AD, Emperor Theodosius ordered the destruction of pagan temples. The Serapeum Temple in Alexandria was also destroyed. This temple was one of the library's main buildings. Thousands of scrolls were buried under rubble. But the biggest blow came in the 5th and 6th centuries. During the Byzantine Empire period, librarians could no longer preserve ancient works. There was no money, no interest. The system had collapsed. Something very critical happened during this period. The process of transferring from ancient scrolls to paper began. But this process was selective. Only works deemed compatible with Christian teaching were transferred. Very few scientific works were saved. In the 7th century, Arabs conquered Alexandria. According to legend, the books in the library were burned to heat bathhouses. But this is most likely false, because by that time, there weren't many books left in the library to burn anyway. Actually, Arab scholars tried to save ancient works. Greek works were translated into Arabic, but much was lost in the translation process. Some mathematical concepts, philosophical nuances, scientific details disappeared in translation. You must understand this point. My library didn't disappear in a single event. It died slowly over centuries, due to neglect, fanaticism, and indifference. Each era had a different cause: fire, war, budget shortages, religious fanaticism, political neglect. Each time it became smaller, weaker. Modern archaeologists still search for its remains, but very little has been found, because parchment is a material that decays very easily. After 2,000 years, no trace remains. Have you ever thought about it? What would the lost knowledge mean today? Maybe there were detailed plans for Archimedes' steam engine. Maybe experiments with electricity were conducted in ancient Greece. Maybe mathematics was 1,000 years more advanced. Eratosthenes' lost maps might have shown the American continent. Hipparchus' star catalogues might have precisely calculated planetary movements. Heron's machines might have laid the foundations for the Industrial Revolution. The losses in medicine were even more tragic. There are signs that heart surgeries were performed in ancient times. Cataract surgeries were routinely performed. Anesthesia was used. When this knowledge was lost, humanity went back 1,000 years. The most painful loss was in mathematics and astronomy. Apollonius's works on conic sections, Diophantus' algebra studies, Aristarchus' model of the solar system. Most of these were lost and weren't rediscovered until the Renaissance. These losses weren't just scientific, but cultural too. Only small fragments of Sappho remain. 90% of Greek tragedians are lost. Music, theatre, art, an entire civilization disappeared. But the greatest loss was this: the scientific method was lost. In ancient times, experimental science was conducted. Hypotheses were formed and tested. This approach was completely forgotten in the Middle Ages. Today you live in the digital age, but the same dangers still exist. Servers can crash. Data can be lost. Information published on websites can be deleted. History can repeat itself. Even the modern Library of Congress hasn't reached the size of my library, because it can't be measured just by the number of books. In Alexandria, a knowledge production center, research institute, education center, and cultural center were all combined. Losing my library wasn't just losing books. It was losing a civilization. It was losing humanity's accumulated knowledge, culture, and potential. Today, scientists are making great discoveries from small fragments of ancient texts. A papyrus fragment is reshaping modern mathematics. This shows that what was lost was truly very valuable. Maybe if my library hadn't been lost, humanity would be at a very different point by now. Maybe most diseases would have been solved centuries ago. Maybe the space age would have begun 1,000 years ago. But we can't change the past. The only thing we can do is not make the same mistakes in the future. Protect knowledge, spread it, keep it alive. Let me tell you this, my library didn't just burn, it was neglected. Fanaticism killed it, indifference buried it. I, Cleopatra. This was the story of how the world's greatest treasure was destroyed.